नमस्कार मेरे मित्रों, आप सब कैसे हो। आशा करता हूँ कि आप सब कुशल ही होंगे। जी हाँ मेरे मित्रों, आज आज 17 अगस्त है, 17th of August, and we are in the year 2024। हम जब न्यू ईयर सेलिब्रेट करते हैं ना, तो हर साल हम एक रेजोल्यूशन मतलब जो है कि करते हैं कि हम इस साल ऐसा करेंगे वैसा करेंगे, और हम पुरानी बातों को भूल जाते हैं कि चलो अब एक नया साल आया है तो नया कुछ करें। ठीक है, और मुझे भी ऐसा लगता है कि मुझे भी कुछ नया करना चाहिए, है ना। तो मैं कोशिश में हूँ। हर दिन, है ना, महत्वपूर्ण होता है। ईच डे इज़ एन इम्पॉर्टेंट डे, यू रिमेंबर इट। मेरे मित्रों, गया हुआ समय कभी वापस नहीं आता है, और कहते हैं ना, टाइम एंड टाइड वेट्स फॉर नॉन। आपको पता है ना। चलिए, आज हम एक नए टॉपिक के साथ हम आपके बीच में फिर आते हैं। माय नेम इज इंद्रनाथ प्रसाद। आई एम ए PLV and I work at Legal Aid Clinic Mahwada, which is housed in the block building. Yes, and which is being run by DLSA, District Legal Services Authority, Civil Court, Latehar. Yes, my friend. Now, I am going to introduce, I'm going to give an introduction about paralegal volunteers, PLVs. Okay. Scheme for implementing the project of paralegal volunteers by the state legal services authorities. Introduction is here. One of the objectives of the policy for access to justice for all, formulated by the National Legal Services Authority NALSA, is development of paralegal services for the purpose of imparting legal awareness to various target groups of paralegal volunteers, who in turn bring legal awareness to all sections of people, है ना, all sections of people. Paralegal services for the purpose of imparting legal awareness to various target groups of paralegal volunteers, who in turn bring legal awareness to all such sections of people. हम जागरूकता करते हैं ना, जागरूकता कार्यक्रम, और हमारे कुछ टारगेट ग्रुप्स हैं, जैसे कि ST/SCs हैं, वोमेन एंड चिल्ड्रेन and beggars, mentally ill people, or disabled, yes, or those who suffer from mass destructions like flood, yes, hunger, and then that many things. Orphans, we work for the children. Yes, so we have target groups. I myself am a paralegal volunteer, so I am doing the same thing. And NALSA wants this. National Legal Services wants this. So that is the main purpose. Yes, justice for all. Yes, that motto we have, and that we keep in mind. So, for effective functioning of the system जो है कि कारगर तरीके से काम करिए, है ना. For effective functioning of the system, modalities are to be worked out in respect of organizing training programs and also provide reference material for the faculty of the training programs and paralegals in order to achieve the desired results and to shape the trainees as the full-fledged paralegal volunteers. The following instructions are to be followed. Let us see what are the instructions which are to be followed. Formulation of modalities. At the first phase, every district legal service authority shall identify about 50 volunteers, and every taluk legal services committee shall identify about 25 volunteers who can read and write vernacular language. Vernacular language in such a way that the identified person's area of operation will cover the jurisdiction of respective district legal services authority or taluk legal services committee for training at respective district legal services authorities under the supervision of chairman and secretary district legal services authority. Next, the training programs of paralegal volunteers and other activities initiated herein shall be conducted under the overall supervision of the district judge and chairman, district legal services authority, by secretary of district legal services authority and other officers and staff. The programs under this scheme shall be formulated by secretaries of DLSS in consultations and approval of district judges and chairman concerned. Each such program conducted by them as well as a report about the work done by the paralegal volunteers shall be submitted to the state legal service authority. जैसे हमारे state legal service झारखंड, झालसा, that we have. Now, who should be paralegal volunteers? Remember, paralegal volunteers are to be identified from the following target groups: advocates, teachers, and lecturers of government and private school and colleges of all levels, Anganwadi workers, private or government doctors and other government employees, field level officials of different departments and agencies of the state and union governments, students of graduation and post-graduation in law, education, social services and humanities, members of apolitical services oriented non-government organizations and clubs, members of women neighboring groups, Maitri Sanghams, and educated prisoners serving long-term sentences in central prison and district prison, and social workers and volunteers of Panchayati Raj and municipal institutions, members of cooperative societies, members of trade unions, any other persons which the district legal services authority or taluk legal services committee deems fit to be identified as paralegal volunteers. Okay. Now, after identification of the volunteers, their names, addresses, telephone numbers, if available, shall be entered in a separate register maintained by the DLSA and Taluk Legal Services Committee by giving batch number. And each identified paralegal volunteer is to be given an identification card, ID card, by the society secretary. DLSA identification card shall be given in the performer. Now, what is written there? Paralegal volunteer, register number, name, father's, village, town, signature, and that signature of secretary DLSA. And you have a photograph there, which I am having. Okay. The identified volunteers be given training in 6 sessions, 2 sessions in each month, and training is to be completed within a period of 3 months for each identified batch. After completion of 6 sessions of training, the District Legal Services Authority and Taluk Legal Services Committee shall identify another batch of paralegal volunteers and impart training by observing the same instructions. The District Legal Services Authority and Taluk Legal Services Committee should enlist the cooperation of the collector of the district or the revenue divisional officer of that area, and through them the officials of the concerned departments or agencies or organizations to identify the interested volunteers to be trained as legal aid volunteers and to enable participation of such persons in such programs and for providing the necessary infrastructure and other support of the for organizing such programs. Okay, special impact issues. Training programs are to be planned in such a way to provide exposure to the paralegal volunteers to the necessity of governing legal awareness in respect of constitutional and statutory rights and duties and general civil, criminal, substantial and procedural law and problems and issues of law and society as well as special issues related to women, children, students, farmers, industrial and agricultural labor, prisoners, victims of natural disasters, physically challenged, including persons suffering from mental disorder and mentally retarded persons, victim of trafficking, and women and children, as well as those suffering from HIV, IOS, members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, bonded labor, consumers, senior citizens, and other beneficiaries under Legal Services Authorities Act. Besides providing clear idea of working of legal services authorities and services provided under the Legal Services Authorities Act. Next, if the District Legal Services Authority and Taluk Legal Services Committee deems fit and necessary to identify paralegal volunteers exclusively in respect of dealing the issues of a special groups mentioned in the para number 8, the DLSAs, and authority and Taluk Legal Services Committee shall identify persons interested to work exclusively in respect of dealing the issues of any of the special groups mentioned, register their names and impart training focusing the issues related to the special group by following similar procedure in respect of entering the names in the register and training systems. Next is the training should be so oriented as to enable the trainees to act as effective coordinators between the legal service authorities and the needy and deserving citizens. Next, the paralegal volunteers should know clearly that they should work as pure volunteers without expecting any fee, remuneration or salary for doing services to the oppressed and suppressed sections of people around them in a dedicated way as a commitment. Training topics. Topics to be covered in training programs: rights of women under the following acts and topics: Hindu Marriage Act, Christian Marriage Act, Muslim Women's and Protection Act and Special Marriage Act, Child Marriage Restraint Act 1929, Family Act, Family Court Act 1994, Guardian and Wards Act 1890, Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act, Maternity Benefit Act, Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act, Dowry Prohibition Act, Dowry Harassment Section 125, Criminal Penal Code, and Harassment of Working Women and Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005, and Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes, Prevention of Atrocities Act, Consumer Protection Act, Labor Welfare Laws, and procedure for claiming compensation under Fatal Accident Act, Motor Vehicle Act, Workmen's Compensation Act, and Compensation from Railway Accident Claims Tribunal, Bonded Labor Abolition Act 1976, FIR, arrest, bail, rights of prisoners, fundamental rights of accused, including prisoners, fundamental duties of accused, including prisoners, and registration and stamp duty, permissive notes, revenue laws, Nyaya Sankal program undertaken by NALSA in collaboration with UNDP, United Nations Development Program, entitled TAHA, Trafficking and AIDS HIV, entitlements conferred on special groups by governments under various schemes, orders and legislations, public interest litigation, Lok Adalats, ADA, assistant free legal services under Legal Services Authorities Act, any other topic or act the District Legal Services Authority and Taluk Labor Services Committee deems it necessary, including those related to local problems. Procedure relating to training. Paralegal volunteers training program is to be conducted under the supervision of the chairman and secretaries DGLSA, and as soon as 6 sessions of training is completed to a batch of identified paralegal volunteers in the district, consolidated list of registered numbers and names of paralegal volunteers who have undergone training shall be submitted to the State Legal Services Authority, and a separate review meeting with the trained Paralegal volunteers batch wise be conducted once in 3 months by the Secretary DLSA, and a report shall be submitted to State Legal Services Authority within 1 month thereof. And District Legal Services Authority and Taluk Legal Services Committee should devise their own plan in preparing batches of identified paralegal volunteers in such a way that the training program be continued throughout the year for batch after batch. Okay, the District Legal Services Authorities be permitted to spend maximum amount of 3,000 for each training session, including refreshments, actual conveyance charges, and each day to trainees. And the District Legal Services Authority may utilize the services of serving or retired judicial officials, law teachers, lawyers, law students, revenue officials, as well retired Sheristaras of courts and law graduates among court staff as resources person for training program. Paralegal volunteers in jails. For this purpose, about 10 educated prisoners serving long-term sentences in the very same central prison and district prisons may be identified for being trained as paralegal volunteers whose services shall be available to other prisons in the jail itself at all times. The jail authorities have agreed to implement the scheme. Now, disqualification of paralegal volunteers and their removal. No person is eligible for being identified as paralegal if he or she fails to enlist interest in the scheme, has been urged insolvent, has been accused of an offence, he has become physically or mentally incapable of acting as paralegal volunteer, has so abused his or her position or misconducted in any manner as to render his or her continuous prejudicial to the public interest affiliated to political parties. Now, any such paralegal volunteers can be removed by the Chairman, District Legal Services Authority, and intimate the same to the State Legal Services Authority. Duties of trained paralegal volunteers. The paralegal volunteer shall educate every citizen to enable him or her to be aware of the right to live with human dignity, enjoying all the constitutionally and statutorily guaranteed rights, and performing the duties and discharging the obligations as per law. The paralegal volunteer shall make every citizen aware of the nature of the disputes, issues, problems concerning which a citizen can approach the Legal Services Authority, and through whom the manner of resolution of disputes, issues, problems through the Legal Services Authority. The paralegal volunteer shall constantly keep a watch on any transgressions of law or acts of injustice in their area of operation, and bring them immediately to the notice of the concerned DLSA or the TLSA, TLSC, through a telephonic message or a written communication, or in prison expeditiously, to ensure enable effective remedial action by such authority or committee. The PLV shall organize legal awareness camp regularly in their area of operation, either in collaboration or under intimation of DLSA or TLSC, to generate legal awareness among citizens in respect of the problems, any issues related to women, children, labor, members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, persons and other beneficiaries under LSAA, Legal Services Authorities Act. The paralegal volunteer shall create awareness among citizens about the working of the legal services in the state legal services provided by the DLSA, Taluk, TLSC, High Court Legal Services Committee, State Legal Services Authority, Supreme Court Legal Services Committee, National Legal Services Authority, and also provide their address to enable them to utilize their services. And the paralegal volunteers shall generate awareness among citizens about the benefits in settlements of disputes through arbitration, conciliation, judicial settlement, including settlement, lok adalat, and mediation. The paralegal volunteers shall propagate among the citizens that they may approach the DLSA or TLSC for settlement of disputes at pre-litigation stage itself without paying any court fees. The paralegal volunteers shall create awareness among the citizens that the parties are entitled for refund of court fees in matters settled in Lok Adalat, and their litigation comes to an end there itself and lies no appeal, and waste of time is avoided. The paralegal volunteers shall create awareness among citizens about the settlement of disputes relating to public utility services through permanent Lok Adalats. The paralegal volunteers shall submit a brief report every month about their activities to a DLSA or TLSC. The PLV shall see that the publicity process of Legal Services Authority reach educated person in every village. है ना? जो लिटरेचर मिलता है खुद पढ़े लिखे लोग होते हैं, थोड़ा पढ़ के वो सुना लें जो लिटरेचर हम लोगों को मिलता है ना। पता चला कि जो पढ़े लिखे हैं उधर फेंक करके कूड़ा में डाल दिए, वो ऐसा नहीं है। अभी क्या है कि the PLVs and people trained can utilize the telephonic services or TLSC, DLSA wherever telephones are available, and those of SLSA, State Legal Services Authority, to bring to the notice of various legal services authorities about any aberrations or infringement of rights of for immediate help and instruction. If any expenditure is incurred by the volunteer as paralegal on account of telephone charges for this can be got reimbursed from the TLSC or and on production of proof of such expenditure. कुछ अगर टेलीफोनिक कुछ खर्चा आया तो आप बिल क्लेम कर सकते हैं। तो आई hope that this video will be really beneficial. In this video I am also going to upload, yes, in YouTube, in my YouTube channel. Please subscribe to channel, my channel, share it, like it. Thank you so much.